guys, welcome to the Arpeggiation Station. Figured I'd give you a little tutorial video just going through each of the modules and how they all kind of function and how to build sounds with everything. Okay, let's start with the master controls and audio mixer. 3 mixers. There's kind of 3 channel outputs. You've got the synth channel, you've got the drum machine channel, and then you've got control of both of them. Pretty straightforward. This controls both. This controls each independently. A good way to kind of balance the sounds depending on, what you're trying to do. We also have a master BPM. So this controls the BPM of the entire synth. So everything runs off this. Trigger repeats, the note envelope, it factors this into its calculations when it's working out timing to execute the envelope. Drum machine, everything. You've also got a universal octave control. This will control all 3 oscillators. So if you've got multiple octaves running through these, it will put them all up or down an octave, depending on how you set it. For example, we've got that. And we can put it up an octave or up an octave. Fairly straightforward stuff. The other option is a transpose, done in semitones. So you can put as whatever number you like. Typically, within the octave if you're trying to, get it to sit in a certain place, or you can even layer this with other music, in-game music. So I'll get you can hear that. And then we can transpose it, however many. There you go, we're up a semitone there. How cool. Okay, let's talk about this, the note envelope. So this is just a standard attack decay, sustain and release envelope. There's nothing too flashy going on here, but the envelope time, so the time it takes to get through all of these steps, is determined by 2 things: the BPM and the division of whole note. So currently we're on a whole note, so it's 1 note per bar at 105 BPM. You're going to hear the difference when you start to play with these. When you get faster, it is still executing this envelope, but it's going to be a lot harder to hear what's actually going on. Good example. So our attack is instant. Our decay and sustain are on the max setting, so you're not going to really hear anything there. We'll play with Aaron in a minute. And the release is max as well. So the tail end of this note is going to go right up until it triggers the next one. You'll hear that here. There's no differentiation. There's no gap between the notes. If we bring this down, we'll get a hard stop. And then anywhere in between will give us a nice dip off. And then same with these. You have the decay and sustain. We bring our sustain down. You'll hear that. Right, just ways for you to shape the notes to how you want them to be. Next, which you can probably hear, we have a bit of glide going on between the notes, or what you'll also know this as is portamento, which is what it's referred to on a lot of kind of modern synths that you can, buy for the studio. And, it's simple as 1 knob. You can have a really long glide, or you can just gradually shorten it, or not at all. And there's a distinct jump between each note. I like a little bit. I think it gives it a good analog sound. It makes it sound less digital, a bit more natural, like an actual recorded synth. Let's just hear what that sounds like. Amazing. This noise control is white noise. Now you can go into the synth module and change it to pink noise, which is a little bit less aggressive. So if you just want something subtle, but you kind of get that from the white noise anyway. This works with the super oscillator. So if this volume's on 0, you're not going to hear it. If we turn this up, you can kind of hear it there. It's nice if you want to give something like a vintage sound, or it's actually really great for soundscapes using this. It's quite interesting what almost sounds like wind, which is quite cool when you pile some effects on top of it. Let's move on to the oscillators. So this is how you're going to build your sound. These two, oscillators 1 and oscillator 2, are essentially the same. So they have the same 3 waves, and we have the same functions here that you can do. You can pan them, you can detune them, and you can adjust the volume independently. And as I said, you have the 3 wave types to build from, plus an independent octave control. So oscillator 1, I've got this set to triangle wave, so that's what you can hear in the when I hit play. You can detune this, you can pan this left and right. Which is cool. Now, we'll start with that as our base. Let's build up wave on oscillator 2. This I've got set to a saw wave. I'm going to leave it on that for now, just to give it a bit of bite. Saw waves can be quite aggressive sounding, and we've dropped it an octave lower, so you're going to kind of hear what that starts to sound like. We can start to kind of, sculpt our sound. Our detune function is quite cool, especially when we detune just a slight amount. It's going to give us a chorus effect, which is very cool. Now the value here goes plus or minus 400. Now that is in cents. If you know kind of microtonal music theory, that's the value they use. There's 100 cents in between each semitone. So we're going up 400, down 400. That's essentially a major third either direction, which can create some really cool sounds. So this here gives us sort of a chorus effect, which is quite cool. Oscillator 2, I'm not going to touch much more. I think that's fine the way we've done it. Now, that brings us to our super oscillator, where it's a little different to oscillators 1 and oscillator 2. So the super oscillator gives us a 4th wave option, which is sine. The advantage of this is also you have additional voices. Now this does go infinite, which is great, but also it starts to sound a bit ridiculous after like 16 voices. So I normally keep it around 3 or 4, just especially when you're blending with the other waves. You don't want to overpower it. And I've got it set to a sine wave, so it's going to give us that nice kind of soft bass just to really build out the sound. Let's see what that sounds like. Doesn't add much, but just enough. If you're struggling to differentiate between the sounds, I'd highly recommend just panning them slightly. So now we have triangles slightly to the right, the saws slightly to the left, and our sine waves in the middle. It's also going to give the almost illusion of a bigger sound. It's a little producing trick with panning. Anyway, so very straightforward. We can change the number of voices. We can change the wave type. You have a pan, but no detune. And we also have that noise we can have in the background. Great. We have our sound. Let's look at the arpeggiator, which is kind of the bread and butter of this. This is what I spent the most time on. You'd be amazed how complicated doing this stuff was, but it's okay. We figured it out. This is very cool. This gives you a lot of kind of choice and functionality, and also later on some controls that you can plug in externally and change things on the fly, which is really cool. So I'll go through each tile and what they do. You have a scale select. You have pretty much every scale at your disposal. I've currently got it on a natural minor because I like that scale. You have your chord type. Now, if you're familiar with music theory, you know that scales have a chord associated with each scale degree. So you have chords 1 through 7, and they represent each degree in the scale. This is what this means. So chord 1 is the root chord, and it's a natural minor. So let's say I think we're in A. This is going to be A minor, or A minor 7, or A minor 9, depending on what your next thing will be. For example, we can go, actually let's go chord 3, because that would be the major. So it's a major 7 chord, to be C. Let's go back to chord 1. We have extensions. This may be confusing the way I've done it, but this is the number of extensions after the triad. So 0 is going to be 1, 3, 5. And then back to 1. We're going to add 1 extension, which is the 7th. So now it's 1, 3, 5, 7. We're going to add 2 extensions. It's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. Let's keep it on a 7th chord. This just gives you a bit more control over kind of, the harmony, especially if you're using this to layer on top of something else and you want to hit specific tones, chord tones. This is going to do that for you. A division of whole note. Now, this is very straightforward. Currently we're on 1, which is 1 whole note. So that's 1 note per bar. When you hit play, this thing is counting. There is a trigger that's beating at the BPM, which triggers things. So if our whole note is 1, then it's going to be once every 4 triggers, and you can change that up to whatever you want. Personally, I think 16th notes sound great. I'll give this a little play. That sounded terrible. That's okay. That's because our portamento is too high, and we probably want to bring the release down a little bit. That sounds better. Okay, fantastic. So if you notice, the direction of the arpeggio is up. That is the default state. Starts at 1, goes up. When we add, let's say we add up to our 11th chord, it's going to go all the way up to that 11th, which is super cool. All right, to change the direction, we have these 3 options. So as I said, by default is up. If we tick this one up or down, it's going to flip the direction. So now we're going to be down. If we tick up and down, it's going to do what it says. It's going to go up and then down. Very cool. And then randomize is going to randomize the notes, so whatever it decides. I mean, with 4 notes to pick from, it's not going to do anything too crazy. You also have an octave range, so we're currently going over 1 octave. If we pick 2, now we have 2 octaves worth of notes. So randomize now has 8 notes to pick from. Pretty cool. And it goes up to 3 octaves. The last part of this is our rhythm function. So rather than playing the notes one after the other at 16th notes, it's going to create some rhythms to play the notes with, which are done in blocks. So you can go in and configure them if you like, after you've kind of spent some time and understood how this all works. But if we tick this, we're now going to have rhythm. Which can be quite cool. So we'll leave that as it is, I think, for now. Okay, I said we'd come back, and we did. This is a drum machine. This is a fully dynamic drum machine. So this doesn't use any loops. It's purely sample based, and it's triggering the samples on rhythms that I've specified, and also unspecified. It's actually generates drum fills procedurally. It's got a like a procedural drum fill creator, which is really cool. And I've kind of done my best to program it in a way that it will play like a drummer would play. So, you know, it's not going to do drum fills randomly. It's going to do it at the end of a 4-bar sequence. So it gives you that kind of lead into the next section. We do have some options, which are quite cool. So obviously we have our, you know, enable drums. So if I turn that on and our rhythm type is 0 and I hit play, we have a drum beat. How cool. I'm going to turn the rhythm off just for the meantime on the synth, so we can kind of, you know, if you want to count. Little drum fill to bring us into the next section. Now, there's a few other functions. Now, this works fully with the BPM, so if I change this to, you know, something ridiculous like 150, it's going to play at 150, right? Let's go back to 105. Okay, so this has a few functions. This sidechain does what you think it does. This is a common producing technique where especially when you got low notes coming through, it will wash out a kick drum. This will actually dip the synth, the volume of the synth, when the kick drum triggers. So it's going to be hard to hear because of our whole note division. If we put this back to 1, so we've got a nice long, you know, stretched out note, you're going to hear that dip when the kick drum goes off. Compared to without. It's a little thing. It's not like a big deal, but sometimes it makes or breaks something, and it's something I've always used when I produce, so that's why I wanted to include it. So we have our sidechain. We have a few more options. Different rhythms. There's 3 rhythms. We have normal, which you can hear. We have a half time, which you can do for like a bridge or a breakdown. Which is quite cool. Very cool. We're going to put the rhythm back on, and we're going to go back up to 16th because I just think that sounds better. We have also a build section, which is like a right, pretty cool. we have a song mode, which means that when you click this box, it's going to cycle through these three. And it's going to create sections like you would in a song. So you're going to have like a verse, and then you're going to have a build up, and then you're going to have a breakdown, and then it's going to give you some more flow if you just want to use it like, you know, you've just got this in the background creating music and you don't want too much hassle. You can click this button and it will do that. Give you an idea, we'll jump from our beat 1 to our half, oh sorry, it goes into build after 16 bars. Very cool. Very cool. Soft start. This, when you tick this box, whatever bar and beat is when the drums are going to come in as a drum fill. So it's actually going to fill into the first section. So, for example, I'm going to turn rhythm off and randomize off. And we're going to go over 1 octave. Just so you can kind of count what's going on. We're still on 16th notes, cool. Now I turn this on, it's not going to come in straight away. It's going to come in bar 2 and beat 1, and it's going to fill until the beginning of the next 4 bar slot. So I hit play. There's our fill. And there we go, we're in the first section now. That's probably a little long. I typically do like 1 bar fills. So this is bar 4 beat 1, which will give us 1 bar of fill. Now, and then we're in. And it's generating these drum fills on the fly, so you're never going to get the same thing. It's always going to be a little bit different, which is cool. The other thing I'm very proud of is this rhythm sync. So this, when you turn this on, it actually is going to listen to the arpeggiator. Now, it's not going to do much when it's the arpeggiator's functioning like this. But when you enable the rhythm, it's going to do a lot, because what the drum machine is going to do is going to catch those like phrases the arpeggiator is doing, and it's going to actually do hits on those phrases, which makes it sound so much more cohesive and like it's a written piece of music, like it's, you know, producers or composers done that intentionally. So what I'm going to do is we can hear it best in half time, and yeah, just listen out for the hits, I guess. You got to hear it going a few times there. It's not always on. There's little windows that it flicks on and off. It's usually leading up to a drum fill. Again, just to give it that sound that it's, you know, it's not a machine making it. It's actually been written that way. Lastly, I want to go over some of the effects modules that I say all of the effects modules that we have. We have modulation, we have a filter, we have a phaser, tremolo, and delay. There's a lot going on behind and I've just exposed, the simplest forms of it. So if you're not familiar with these things, it's very easy to just play around and learn how they work. And if you really want more control, you can go in and add your own, expose your own parameters that you can adjust. That's entirely up to you. So we'll start with the LFO. This functions again off the BPM, and this will modulate the tail end of a note, and it will ramp up. So it's going to go, it's probably the best way we're going to hear it is if I'm going to turn the drums off. I'm going to make a really long note. You're going to be able to hear it a lot better. So currently, there's our note, right? Let's crank this up. It's very subtle. You can hear it there. It's wobbling that tail end of the note, and that's done using an LFO to do. And that LFO frequency is determined based off the BPM. So the faster you have it, the faster it's going to modulate. So it's actually going to modulate in time with your tempo, which is unique. And as I said before, you can go in and you can change that. So you could add another control knob, which is the frequency that it modulates at. As I said, I've just set it up simply so you can play around with it, you can understand how it works, and then go in and change it for yourself. Next, we have a filter. This is like you will get in pretty much every synth available, is going to have a cutoff. And essentially, that's a sweep from the highest end of the frequency. As you roll this down, it's going to turn the volume down of those high frequencies like a wave, all the way down to nothing, almost. So from 20,000 hertz down to 20 is the sweep. And it's another great way to sculpt your sound. I always use a cutoff filter when I'm doing things, because waves like a saw wave can be really harsh, especially when this is all the way open, and just cutting off the tops of those saw waves can really give a great sound. See how that almost cuts it off to nothing? We also have drive. So this is a bit of a weird way it works. It boosts a certain part of the frequency, almost how resonance works, but not quite the same. And it pushes the gain of the audio, so it's going to make it a bit crunchy in certain scenarios, which can be nice. If you want a bit of grunt, it's going to make it sound cool, right? Next, we have delay. This works as any delay would, simplified down into one knob. Again, you can go in and change things, expose things you want to use. This adjusts the feedback and the delay level as you turn it up. Now, it is based off BPM as well, the delay effect. It creates some nice ambience. Phaser is a pan. So stereo pan, left and right. So it's actually going to move the synth around. If I turn this on, I can turn this up. It's not going to do anything until I... It's almost going to give you like a rotary speaker vibe, like you would with a vintage organ or something like that, electric organ. This is how far left and right. When it's at 100, it's a hard left and a hard right, and then as you go down, it's bringing that range down back to center, and the frequency is how fast it's panning or interpolating between those two values. The last thing is a tremolo. Now, this is similar to the phaser, but this is affecting our volume. So this is going to be dipping the volume at whatever rate you decide and whatever amount. It goes all the way down to 0. So it can be a hard stop if you really want. But if you just want, you know, you can hear that. And that is the Arpeggiation Station plugin for Unreal Engine 5. Look, have fun with it. Send me all your wacky sounds you create on my Discord server. You're welcome to come and join. And yeah, I'm open to your feedback. So if you anything you want to work differently or want to add anything, you know, I'm happy to implement it to make this as useful as possible for you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.